as and when it is published, I'm sure I will certainly send some copies to our director, who can certainly share, hopefully share it with you and those that care to read it. Now I want to go a little bit into about what are some of the things that are important to me in trying to form this business. Why did I choose to start this business, and what are some of the lessons that I've learned in my life as I've tried to run this business. My main goal in starting this business was actually not to be an entrepreneur. I chose to be an entrepreneur out of getting frustrated with the company that I was working at. I said, this is no way to run a railroad. I can show people that you don't have to be an asshole in order to build a successful business. That was my real reason to get into business. Wasn't to make money, wasn't to be an entrepreneur, but to show people that you don't have to be an asshole in order to succeed in business. And that's really the journey that I started in 1995. That's the year that the company was founded. I registered in 94, but I started doing business in April of 95. Today, 16 years later, like I told you earlier, it's a company of approximately 500 employees, approximately $90 million in annual revenues, which translates to about 400 crores. And a company that has done pretty well and is continuing to grow and expand while still in a pretty difficult market. One of the reasons that we have continued to do well in a difficult market is what we do is really save people money. So we save telecom carriers money, and when the market is difficult and revenues are not growing, people are a little bit more interested in reducing costs. So what we offer is a little bit more recession-proof. So in difficult markets, we tend not to struggle. And also our revenue model is what we call a recurring revenue model, meaning our customers pay us every month to use our software. We don't as much embrace the model of licensing, which tends to give you large, lumpy revenues. So there are certain things that we have practiced and certain disciplines that we have built it into building Teoco. But really, Teoco's core purpose is to advance the practice of principal entrepreneurship, which means building a successful business without compromising your values. And so what is more paramount to me is not where we get to, but how we get there. And building a company with ethics and integrity is absolutely one of the most paramount importance to me. And we very clearly state that to our employees, to everybody we hire. We do a new hire orientation. We teach them a course on core values. What are our values? What is our purpose? And I try to tell them if they try to help us be successful and profitable while compromising our values, they're very much causing us to make sure that we don't meet our core purpose, which is to build a successful business while adhering to our values and our principles. What I've learned in life is when somebody tells you that something is impossible to do, it all means that it's just a little difficult. They just can't figure out how to do it. It just never means impossible. And I have run into a lot of people who are doing exactly what somebody else said was impossible. And so there is really nothing that is impossible. And in many ways you will find that when you put your heart into doing something, there's something that you're really passionate about, you can really accomplish anything. Now a lot of people I meet want a lot. They all want to be successful. But the key difference between people who actually become successful and people who end up not being as successful as they want to be isn't that people they don't want that success. It is that their actions don't back up their desire. So it's great to have a desire, but if you can't back up that desire with effort, with action, it's really impossible to be successful. I mean, for example, I failed to back up my desire to have a PhD with effort. I really didn't do the things that were necessary for me to complete my PhD. And having a great desire, having a regret about not having done it, which I still do, isn't going to do anything for me. Until such time I back up my desire with effort, okay, it's impossible to accomplish your dreams and goals. So if you have passion and you are willing to back it up with desire, it is possible for you to accomplish really anything. Now, as I told you, I am from a small village in Uttar Pradesh, and I went to the US, and my father bought me a one-way ticket and gave me $500 and said, "Son, that's all I got for you." And I didn't have any rich uncle. In fact, I was the first person from my family to land up in USA. Subsequently, my brother also arrived, and today my brother is also actually an unbelievably successful entrepreneur, probably successful by a magnitude of 10 more than I am. So somehow I guess I must have inherited some of the same genes that he got. But when I arrived in US, I was really the first one from my family to get there. And it has been, like I told you, a tough journey. I made many mistakes. But what I learned is that if you are alive, you can recover from any mistake. The mistakes that you give yourself absolutely no chance from recovering from if you don't cease to exist. If you exist and you want it hard enough, there's almost nothing that you cannot recover from. So if ever you get into a tough spot, just remember this, that there's no mistake that you can't really come back from. All you need is a lot of heart and a lot of desire and a lot of effort to back that up. Now, I am going to leave enough time for people in the audience to ask me questions, but I still want to continue and share a little bit of some of the principles that I've used in building the business, so that you guys have a little bit more of the context. Teoco is built on the model of shared success. We really believe in the story of sharing the ownership with people in the company. That's why it's called the employee-owned company. We really believe in sharing our profits with employees. So every single employee gets a bonus in proportion to the company's profits. And if I, as a CEO, get 60% of my bonus, every single employee in the company gets 60% of the bonus, of their target bonus. If I get 120% of my bonus, every single employee in the company gets 120% of their target bonus. A model of shared success is a fundamental values that we have created in Teoco. We have also really tried to create a model of steady and slow growth. We create a model of recurring revenues so that our clients pay us every month on a fairly regular basis, and we are not dependent on any large sales in any given year to make up for the revenue for that year. We have also created a concept of shared leadership, whereby it means that as a CEO of the company, I'm not the one who's determining every single decision. In fact, I have a leadership team, and that leadership team works together, and we all make these decisions together. And it's a model that requires you to give up your authority, give up your decision-making powers, but it's a model that really works. We call it the model of distributed leadership or shared leadership. And the model of distributed leadership is an unbelievable, powerful, and scalable model. And every organization, whether that be an academic institution or a business that successfully adopts the model of distributed leadership and shared leadership, has a much greater chance to tap into the potential of the people in that organization. If there are people following you, that means you're leading. So, I'd like to take a little bit of a sort of poll from the audience as what they would like to hear me talk about, because I have another 20-25 minutes in which I can share my perspectives with you. So with that, is there a mic that we can use to give to the audience here to get some idea?
Yeah. The basic interest I had, a little bit curious about, you said you had this interesting stage of your life when you were actually from the PhD and kind of transformed yourself, very nicely depicted. Then you are here today. I mean, there's obviously a lot of experience you could share. It looks like a discontinuity. How did you make the start? I mean, I was curious about that.
Okay. Anybody else that wants to, sort of, because I wanted to collect a few questions and I will respond sort of.
I want to congratulate you. It's a very refreshing talk, even for an old man like me. I just wanted to know one thing, that how to measure success? What do you call success? How to define it? That's my basic question.
Okay, that's a very, very good question. Thank you for asking that question. It gives me actually a chance to tell a bit of something that I should have already talked about.
Employees across the globe. So when you started off after that dejected situation, I would like to know the interesting part of how you started off and how did that whole concept of the fact that you're, the employee owned corporation, if I'm right. So, I guess the basis was a lot of focus on employees. How did you go about starting with this entire process of keeping them together?
Is there somebody else that wants to?
Either retaining, promoting, or take action.
Okay, so the question is, how do you assess the performance of your employees, and as such, how do you decide who to promote, who to hire, who to retain, who to terminate? Okay. So let me start with the question that is actually the most interesting to me, which is, what is the definition of success? Definition of success actually is an extremely individual thing, and to each person that definition can be different. It is whatever gives you joy and whatever it is that makes you happy. My definition of success today is how many lives can I impact in a positive and favorable manner. Okay? My definition of success isn't what is our revenues and what is our profits and how fast we are growing. My personal definition of success is, how many lives can I touch and impact in a positive and favorable way. In reality, that's part of the reason that I'm here today, is hoping that maybe I can touch some of your lives in some small way that may have an impact on, even if 2 or 3 of you are able to take something away and apply it to your life and do something that you otherwise may not have done, that would be joyful for me, that would be success for me. So my definition of success is impacting people's lives in a positive way, and other people can define success in their own ways, but it's a pretty individualistic thing, and it depends on what gives that particular person joy, what gives life to their dreams. My dream today is to give life to the dreams of as many people as I possibly can. It's so much joy and so much fun to give life to people's dreams. Many of us take and many of us give. And I've often asked people, what is more fun? Is it more fun to take or is it more fun to give? And invariably, people tell me that there's a whole lot more joy in giving. Many of you would agree that there's a whole lot more joy in giving than there is in taking. Right? But then there's a corollary that I talk about. Okay, so let's say that you give because it's very joyful for you to give. Then, what about the joy that somebody gets from giving to you? So if you're the one who's always giving and never taking, what does that mean? That you are never giving anybody the joy of giving to you. Right? That's a pretty selfish thing to do. You want to be happy, so you want to always give, but you never want to give that joy to somebody else. So, being a giving person actually requires that you also accept help, and you actually give the joy of giving to others. So being giving doesn't simply mean that you be a giving person and help others. It also means that you let others give to you, so that they can also experience the joy of giving. And I'm sure there is some sort of a contradiction in there, but and somebody will help me understand it, but I'm sure I learned some of this at ISI. So I can blame it all on my professors. Okay. Some of you asked me a question about how did I go about starting the business. I really didn't know how to spell the word entrepreneur when I first, got into my working life. When I, finished this story that I was telling you about, and I decided I needed to build a new life for myself, I needed to find work. I needed to find a way to pay my bills. And so I was looking for work. And I had many friends from the bridge circle that were actually quite willing to give me an opportunity because they still thought I was intelligent, and they still thought that I could possibly make a difference. But one person advised me that you should do a formal education in computer science before you come to the field of computer science. So there I was, after having been a professional student back in college, trying to complete a master's in computer science. And I did complete that master's, and then I graduated and I went to work for a company. And I was interviewing for this company, and its name was in those days Teoco Corporation. And it was a parent company of a company that I eventually ended up working for called TIPCO. Some of you may have heard the name TIPCO. But Teoco Corporation was a company that gave me my first job. And during the interview process, one of the guys told me that I had the skills to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know what the word meant and I didn't know how to spell it. But they felt I had certain degree of aggressiveness, I had certain degree of communication skills, I had certain analytical skills, and I had a personality that was conducive to being an entrepreneur. And there was a tool that had been invented by 4 professors, one from Berkeley, one from Stanford, and one from San Diego State University. It's probably now very common, but in those days it was not. And it was called CART, Classification and Regression Trees. So they had invented this methodology called CART, and they wanted to build a business around CART, Classification and Regression Trees. So somewhere early on in my life, this company called Teoco Corporation asked me to start this business. So I became a general manager with 1.5 years of work experience, and I was given a chance to start the Statistical Applications Division. So I signed up Leo Breiman, not Abner Friedman, there was a Mr. Friedman from Stanford, I forget his first name. Jerry Friedman. So Jerry Friedman, Leo Breiman, a gentleman by the name of Olson, and another gentleman, Stone and Olson. So I think 2 of them were from Berkeley, one from Stanford, one from San Diego State University. So I signed 3 of them up as my advisors, because the 4th one, and I forget who it was that didn't want to sign up. I think it was Professor Stone that didn't want to have anything to do with this venture. So I think I signed up Leo Bryman and